Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a deeply human experience based on some incredibly insightful source material, all about understanding long-term grief. Our goal here today is pretty simple. We want to give you some clarity, a bit of structure, and honestly, a whole lot of validation. Right out of the gate, we need to establish that grief is not an illness to be cured. It's not a problem to be fixed. Actually, it's a natural, gentle companion to loss. Let's just anchor everything we're about to talk about on this one profound concept. Grief is the natural human response to loss. It's love with nowhere to go. If you're hurting right now, or maybe you're supporting someone who is hurting, let this assure you that the pain, it's simply proof of how much that lost loved one mattered. It's literally the weight of an irreplaceable love. Section 1, the myth of moving on. We really need to dismantle this societal expectation that grief has some sort of tidy timeline, and we'll do that by establishing a clinical baseline. So prolonged grief disorder, or PGD, was actually newly added to the DSM-5 TR back in 2022. It's diagnosed when severe grief symptoms persist for at least 12 months and, crucially, significantly impair your daily functioning. Now, why start here? Because the incredibly reassuring takeaway is that unless your grief is severely disrupting your day-to-day ability to function for over a year, you're very likely experiencing an entirely natural, healthy response. And this quote from the Grief Training Center really hits the nail on the head. Grief has no endpoint. At milestones, anniversaries, or even just random Tuesday mornings, grief often resurfaces. The absolutely crucial thing to understand here is that if you still feel the ache years later, you aren't grieving too long and you aren't stuck. You're just human. What really matters is the continuous movement between grieving and living. Moving into Section 2, the pendulum of grief. So let's look at the mechanics of how this movement actually works. We are totally stepping away from that old, rigid idea of passive stages. Instead, think of grief operating just like a pendulum. Introduced by researchers Strobe and Shute, the dual process model outlines two distinct modes. On one side of the swing, we have loss-oriented behaviors. This is facing the pain, crying, yearning. And then on the other side, we have restoration-oriented behaviors. This is establishing new routines, paying the bills, or just seeking distraction. You might bounce between crying over a photograph and suddenly realizing you really need to do the laundry. That isn't instability, it's a completely normal oscillation. This constant bouncing back and forth perfectly captures our core takeaway. Both sides are absolutely essential. Oscillation is healthy grief. If you stay entirely on the loss side, you're going to completely deplete yourself. But if you stay entirely on the restoration side, you suppress your emotions. Your brain actually requires this swinging motion, including periods of rest and distraction, in order to process and recover. All right, Section 3, Worden's 4 active tasks. Because here's the thing. Grief isn't just something that happens to you. It's something you actively move through. Psychologist William Worden lays out 4 active tasks of mourning, and they don't even have to follow a strict chronological order. Task 1 is accepting the reality of the loss, like visiting a grave. Task 2 is processing the pain, which means actively sitting with the sadness. Task 3 involves adjusting to a world without them. That could mean redefining who you are now or managing finances alone. But I really want you to think about Task 4, find an enduring connection. This completely shifts the goal. You aren't trying to move on and leave them behind. You're finding a new way to stay connected to them as you move forward. Section 4, burning one log at a time. Building on that idea of actively processing your pain, let's talk about practical emotional regulation. I want you to picture your grief as a massive, roaring fire made up of many different logs. You simply cannot burn them all at once. If you try to process the death, the future you lost, the anger, and the loneliness all at the exact same time, you will literally be consumed. The strategy here is to tackle just one specific ache at a time. Take one log, let it burn, then rest. Let's apply that fire metaphor specifically to sadness, which is really the core of missing someone. Here's how you can cry in a way that actually heals rather than deepens the wound. Let the tears come naturally, and set a gentle container for yourself. For example, tell yourself you'll let the wave of tears come, and then you'll go make a cup of tea. And ground yourself afterwards. What you don't want to do is force tears, isolate yourself every single time, or spiral into thoughts like, I'm always going to feel this way. Now, what about anger? It is so incredibly common, and it actually acts as a fierce protector against feeling helpless. Do name the unfairness of the loss, Channel this intense physical energy safely by moving it through your body. Go for a really hard walk or write an angry letter you never actually sent. Conversely, don't suppress it. Definitely avoid using substances to numb it, and be super careful not to aim it at the people who are just trying to help you. And then there's guilt. Honestly, guilt is often just your mind desperately searching for some sense of control over a completely uncontrollable situation. Do ask yourself if it's really guilt or just grief wearing a disguise. Try talking out loud to the person you lost, but whatever you do, don't play the endless what-if game. There is absolutely no peaceful ending to that game. And please, don't punish yourself by denying joy. Remember, you did the absolute best you could with the knowledge you had at the time. Section 5. Carrying love forward. So how do we integrate all of this? Well, we introduce a concept that is an absolute game changer for what it means to heal, the continuing bonds theory. Originally introduced back in 1996 by Klass, Silverman, and Nickman, this essentially gives you clinical permission to keep your loved one in your life. It's an evidence-based understanding that maintaining a meaningful, enduring connection with the deceased is healthy, it's normal, and it promotes healing. Let me say that again. Healing absolutely does not require severing your ties. Let's look at some really actionable ways to maintain those bonds. You can literally just talk to them about your day. You can keep a special ritual, like lighting a candle on their birthday or cooking their favorite meal. You might keep a journal addressed directly to them. Or, and this is a beautiful one, you can choose to live their values. If they valued courage, be brave for both of you. This isn't denial. It's the continuation of your relationship in a brand new form. Finally, Section 6. Daily practices for healing. Let's wrap things up with some highly practical habits designed to support your nervous system, starting with the grief wave protocol. Think of this as your emergency lifeline for when a wave of grief just hits you out of nowhere, like right in the middle of the grocery store. Step 1, name it. Literally tell yourself this is a grief wave. Step 2, breathe. 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. That longer exhale physically calms your nervous system. Step 3, ground yourself by touching something physical. And step 4, be kind to yourself. Just acknowledge that getting through this takes immense energy. Now, beyond managing those sudden, out-of-nowhere waves, here are a few tools for structured daily care. Try a quick morning check-in to ask yourself, hey, am I leaning toward loss or restoration today? Try keeping a memory jar where you jot down specific, beautiful memories to build this wonderful collection of love. And finally, practice evening gratitude and grief. By naming just one thing you are grateful for alongside one thing you are grieving, you actually prove to your nervous system that beauty and profound loss can exist in the exact same space at the exact same time. I want to conclude this explainer with a question for you to really think about. How will you carry your loved one's values forward today? Remember, the pain you carry right now is not a sign of weakness. It is the weight of a deeply real and completely irreplaceable love. By choosing to navigate this, you are doing something incredibly courageous. I really hope the structure and the models we've explored today leave you feeling empowered to carry that love into the future. Thank you so much for learning with me today.